I think one of the biggest things people struggle with when they first start their agency is understanding, okay, well, what niche do I choose? I think there's so many niches out there that people struggle and they all end up trying to do the same three, really. Solar, home improvement, and auto detailing. They are the three that I hear all the time from beginner agency owners, and I really recommend you avoid them just because a lot of other people are doing them, right? So in today's video, I'm actually going to break down what are the best niches for your SMMA in 2025 that are a little bit different. I've tried to be a little bit different, and also how I would go about choosing one if I was in your position. Now, I do just want to highlight that niche selection isn't just for people starting their agency. Even down the line, some people decide to change niche, or they get bored of their niche, or they decide that, their niche is no longer a good fit for them, and then they also change niche. And that happens a lot more than people think. I know agency owners, even at 15-20k a month, who have done that exact thing, go from completely different things, from like e-commerce, and then all of a sudden they transition to landscaping, right? Which is completely different. But it does happen. So please, please, please bear that in mind when you scale your agency. So the first step is understanding, okay, well, why does niching down matter? Well, there's a couple of reasons as to why we actually do it in the first place. For example, higher client budgets, okay? So some niches are just shit, and that is the case, and some are a lot better based on a few different factors that we will cover a little bit later on. So that's why we need to stick to some niches. But also, it allows you to become an SME, a subject matter expert. The problem is, when you don't have a certain niche to follow, you don't know that niche very well. There's only so much you can know that niche. If you jump on sales calls with 5 different niches in one day, well, you're not really going to be able to have a conversation about their industry with them. And when it comes to the sales calls, that's such an important thing. Being able to have that conversation with them, relate to their pain points, understand their industry, maybe even give them some insight about what you found out about their industry. And that's not only going to build a rapport, but it's also going to validate your expertise in front of them, so they're more likely to go ahead with you as a service. Okay, so that's the second reason as to why we want to niche down. The third reason is it's easy to create targeted ads and content. So what I mean by this is, oh, my battery's low, but what I mean by this is when you, again, don't stick to one niche, you don't really understand what works for that niche, if that makes sense. Because let's say you have 5 clients and they're all in different industries, you're only learning a little bit about each industry. But if you had 5 clients all in the same industry, you'd start to understand patterns as to what's working with the client delivery and what's not working. And the beauty of this is, when you start to understand, okay, this works and this doesn't work, the fulfillment for you becomes a lot easier, because it just becomes copy and paste. Because if you have, like, let's say, a roofer in London and then a roofer in Newcastle, well, realistically, you can actually copy over the exact same creatives for them, because they're in 2 different locations. And then the fourth one, it builds authority faster. I've kind of covered this in the second point in terms of being a subject matter expert. But not only can you know the industry in a lot more detail, but when it comes to that authority, I put an example here, right? The guy who dominates marketing for chiropractors, you are known within one industry, and they will have referrals and things like this, and you build up a nice portfolio of case studies within one specific industry. And it probably was one of the biggest mistakes I made when it came to my SMMA, because I have got clients and had clients in loads of different industries, like too many. But yeah, and then finally, niche agencies can actually charge more for their service because they're seen as specialists. I always have this same analogy. Would you rather buy a fitness program from a generic fitness coach, or would you rather buy from a fitness coach specific, let's say for me, who's a fitness coach for 18 to 25-year-olds, and help them get a wham for summer, right? Very specific compared to the generic fitness coach, and I would pay more for that, and likewise so would all of you watching this video. So that's also another reason as to why we want to niche down. So now we understand, okay, well, that's why we niche down. Let's understand the framework as to how do we actually go about choosing a niche. So the first thing, I want you to assess your interests and skills. We've worked with many guys that come from all different lives, all different paths of life, people who have came from local businesses and now want to do the marketing for their industry, people in solar who now want to, like I said, do marketing for solar, people in roofing wanted to do marketing for roofers. But then we've also had people come from fucking investment banking and want to just get more freedom. So they don't really have a specific niche that they want to target, right? So I want you to assess your interests and your skills. Is there any that you're particularly interested in? If not, it's not a problem. And do you have any skills or experience in a particular field? This is important when it comes down to the selling. Again, let's say I start my agency today and I've been a landscaper for 4 years, but I have 0 case studies. Well, I can sell the fact that I used to be a landscaper, and I have a lot of experience within the field. I know what works, I know what doesn't work, etc. And people buy from people. They don't necessarily buy a service, they buy from you. And that's so important to remember. So it's all about selling yourself. Step 2, we've got researching market demand. Okay, so we need to understand, well, cool, does this market actually work? Like, do they actually want my service? Now, there's 2 main ways of going about this. And the first way is through actual calls, cold calling. One of the things I recommend to everyone inside Client Capital, and I'm going to give away for free on this video, is if you are at the beginning stage or if you're thinking about changing niche, have 20 conversations within that industry. Literally cold calls. But you don't pitch anything. You say, hi, I'm not actually trying to sell you something. I just want to have 5 minutes of your time, if that's okay, to try and understand a little bit more about your industry. I've been in marketing for 5 years now, or however long you've been in the industry, and you just basically say that you're looking to transition into this niche because you see a lot of potential. So one of the things I really recommend is having those 20 conversations, and you'll get to understand, okay, there's a common pattern here, or they're all struggling with this pain point, or they all want this solution. And that's how you can build up your offer, but also understand as to whether the niche works. I think there's a guy inside Client Capital called Darren. He's actually at an £8,200 a month in recurring revenue as we speak. He actually just did a student interview for us. He did a market research course, and very quickly realized that home improvement businesses, their biggest problem is checker trade. They all rely on checker trade, but it doesn't work for them. So he then ran up an ad the next day using this inbound funnel, which was essentially a podcast ad breaking down why checker trade doesn't work and why you want to be using your own exclusive client acquisition system. And that got him a shit ton of leads, and it works extremely well. And now he's at £8,200 a month. And then step 3 is we need to evaluate the profitability and competition, okay? So the biggest thing from this step really is understanding, well, what is the ticket price? Because if it's a low ticket industry, the chances of you making a lot of money from that industry is nothing, right? Let's say you targeted hair salons. The problem with hair salons is, let's say a haircut is about £100. I don't even know how much women's haircuts cost, but I know it's not more than £1,000. Let's say it's £100. Well, realistically, you're going to have to get about, 100 people through the door for them to even make 10 grand. And that's with your service fee and also the ad spend. And realistically, can they even accommodate for 100 people in a month? Who knows, right? So that's probably not a good niche to go down. And some of the niches that I'm going to break down in a second, they have extremely good profitability. They're very high ticket. And competition-wise, competition is a weird one because we kind of want competition within the industry. And the reason why I say that is because if there's a lot of competition, like let's say roofers, for example, if there's a lot of roofers in one area, well, they're going to be looking for alternative sources of marketing to try and differentiate themselves from their competitors. Now, competition for you as an agency, we obviously want less competition, right? So we want to go for the hidden niches that not many people go down. And then finally, step 4, test and commit. We just want to test the niche and commit. There's 2 mistakes that people make here when they start their agency. Number 1 is they don't test for long enough. They give it 2 days and they quit thinking, this industry doesn't work. And then number 2, the flip side, they test an industry for too long and see no success. Now, I am a big believer that every single industry does work. It does. You could be the world's worst agency owner, but if you do your fucking cold calling, you do your outreach, and you stick to it, you will eventually sign clients. Okay, so there needs to be a little bit of a middle line there, a balance between the two. And realistically, time-wise, for how long you should be trying a niche, I don't really know. There's not really an answer for that, but it's about when you think, okay, I've actually done enough here and I've not seen any results. That's when you call it a day. But if you get sales calls, then do not quit on a niche, because it might just be a closing ability that's holding you back. So let's get into it. Let's get into my 5 favorite niches this year for beginners. So number 1 is insurance, more specifically life insurance. Okay, in the US and Canada, very competitive market for the brokers themselves. And the way insurance works, obviously I'm not an expert, but a lot of guys inside Client Capital are actually seeing success within the insurance niche. Is essentially they're all brokers, they're all individuals, and they're competing against each other. So it's a very competitive market, and they're all looking for new methods of customer acquisition. They also use something called vendors, which is essentially a part like Go Compare the Market, where essentially they get a load of leads and they give that lead to all the different brokers. So the problem with insurance brokers is they are all calling all the exact same leads. So what you guys can come in with is basically an exclusive customer acquisition system where they are not sharing the leads with any other brokers. It's all leads that are only interested in them. And the beauty of insurance is everyone needs insurance. So there's always a demand there for their service, and also that means there's also always a demand for your service from the insurance broker. We then have cosmetic surgery. So a little bit of a less talked one, okay? Not many people mention this, but in the UK and the US, cosmetic surgery is such a big market. A lot of people, a lot of women and men, to be fair, are looking to get more and more cosmetic surgery. I do think it's an industry on the rise. There's an upwards trend in niche there. It's extremely high ticket, and people are becoming fearful of getting work done abroad in countries like Turkey, where I'm from. So yeah, they want to get it done in the UK, in the US, where they feel a little bit more comfortable, and also it's actually a lot more expensive as well. And the good thing is, I don't know how much a BBL costs, but let's say it costs £10,000. Well, if you're charging £1,000 a month for your service, and let's say 1k a month in ad spend, 2k, there's a lot of profitability there, and also it's very high ticket, so it means they can justify paying £1,000 for your service. The third one is in kitchen remodeling. Now, I know this is similar to home improvement. Obviously, it's a little bit more specific, but kitchen remodeling in the US specifically is a fantastic niche. Jobs can be generated between businesses $20,000 plus for essentially creating a new kitchen. And again, it's something that you guys can capitalize on. If you're watching this and you're looking to start an agency and you have experience in construction or labouring, whatever, I really recommend going down this route, because that's where you then can sell on your ability, your previous experience within the industry and understanding how it all works. Then the fourth industry we have is landscaping. Now, more specifically in Australia, and there's a reason for this. I recently, it was about 9 months ago, worked with someone in Client Capital, and he wanted to target the landscaping niche. And funny enough, his best friend was a landscaper. So I said to him, well, look, to gain experience with the ad side of things, let's target landscaping. And let's use your friend as an example client. So he signed his friend as a client, his friend didn't pay him anything. It was just purely for him to try and get some, I guess, work experience, quote unquote, with ads and how it all works. Within 3 weeks, we booked this guy out for 12 months, obviously with my help as well, but we booked him out for 12 months. We generated him, I can't remember how much, but a shit ton of money. The guy even bought his dream car, which was a Mustang, and this was from about 2 to 3 weeks worth of work for this landscaper, and he was super happy. And what we found there, a gap in the market. And this guy that I'm talking about, Sam, he actually then ended up going to make on 5 figures plus a month with his agency, purely from targeting landscapers in Australia. The beauty of it is it's not really seasonal, because the weather is good in Australia continuously. Obviously they have winter, right? But people look to get landscaping work done in the winter, ready for summer. And likewise, because it is predominantly hot most of the time, they are always looking for an external service like landscaping. And again, extremely high ticket. The jobs we were landing were $10,000 plus. So yeah, a lot of money. And then finally, we have the last niche of wedding planners / divorce lawyers. Now, this niche is unique. I didn't want to, like I said, do the classic niches. I wanted something different, and it does work. And I've put some statistics in here to prove that there is opportunity within the market. So in 2022, there were 2 million, over 2 million marriages in the US. Okay, and there was also 673,000 divorces and annulments across 45 states. And experts estimate the actual figure approaches actually 900,000. So in 1 year, there's 2 million marriages, 900,000 divorces. A lot of people that you guys can target there. Obviously, they are slightly different. Wedding planners, very happy industry to be in. Divorce lawyers, not so much. But they're both extremely high ticket. And it's definitely a great niche for you guys to capitalize on. But not many people are targeting. And it's also a little bit different. So, to conclude, that is the niches sorted. So hopefully by now you understand, okay, well, how can I go about targeting, well, how can I go about finding a niche, but also what niche, well, some niche ideas that I could potentially explore in my agency. But how do we actually sign these guys as clients? So if you want to know how can we actually sign these guys as clients, I recommend you watching this video here, which will break down the inbound system that me and all of the guys inside Client Capital use, because we teach them and we see a lot of success with. And the best part is you only have to spend 30 minutes a day on that system to sign clients on a weekly basis. So if you want to learn a bit more about that system, then click this video here. Please like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.